fast, where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to row-wide facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome back to the Bullvine Podcast, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation. Today, we are taking a sledgehammer to some of the industry's most deeply held beliefs about technology, capital expenditure, and really the true cost of labor.
And today, we're diving deep into a feature piece that's got some serious buzz. This one. It's got layers that'll make every farmer rethink their approach to capital, to labor, and frankly, how they view the entire milking process. We're talking about finding 6 figures in profit by focusing on biology, not the hardware.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the context for this deep dive is, well, it's absolutely brutal. Let's not sugarcoat it. We're facing this industry narrative that says automation robots is the only path left for survival.
Mm-hmm.
And when the USDA tells us that 39% of licensed dairy herds were lost just between 2017 and 2022, that statistic alone injects panic into the market.
Oh, absolutely. It makes every farmer feel like they have to go out and sign a huge loan for something big and shiny just to prove they're serious about staying alive.
And that right there is exactly where the danger lies.
Yeah.
That emotional response is driving some really terrible business decisions.
It is. We've been watching too many folks buy the solution before they've even measured the problem. Or worse.
Worse? Buying a solution that doesn't fix the problem they actually have.
Exactly. And this analysis we're digging into, it shows 2 incredibly distinct financial paths. And the divergence is, well, it's shocking.
Okay, so let's state the stakes clearly. One path, the one rooted in rigorous management, in biological precision, that path leads to a net annual gain of $150,000 or more for a mid-sized operation.
Right. And the other path?
The other path is indiscriminate, all-in automation route.
Yeah.
It often leads to a negative financial impact. We're talking about losing $35,000 to $40,000 a year.
Year after year, just servicing the debt.
Just on the debt.
So the difference between a $150,000 gain and a $40,000 loss, that's a $190,000 swing in your annual cash flow. That determines whether you expand or whether you sell the cows. It's that simple.
That swing right there is why this is so critical.
Yeah.
We are talking about finding over $126,000 in annual revenue. Not by signing a $500,000 loan.
No.
But by mastering a 90-second biological window that your cows already dictate. We are explicitly calling out the automation hype because the data is just overwhelming.
It is.
Global studies, research out of Brazil, reports from Cornell, Penn State.
Yeah.
They all show that 58% of precision tech adopters didn't see the ROI that was promised.
They bought the machine, but they skipped the manual. They just automated a flawed process.
Exactly. And why? Because they hadn't fixed their management protocols first. So today, we strip away the hype. We get down to the nuts and bolts of where the real margin is made or lost on your farm.
And it's not in the steel and sensors.
It's in the system. Let's unpack this. Okay, let's start with the cold, hard economic reality facing everyone right now. We are operating in a high-cost environment. We all know feed is eating up, around 60% of total revenue?
At least.
When your input costs are that high, operational leakage isn't just annoying, it's absolutely fatal.
Mm-hmm.
And the latest Cornell Dairy Farm Business Summary data from 2024 is what really drives this home. It's the metric that separates the survivors from the statistics.
I look at those DFBS reports every year, and the most eye-opening part isn't the average cost. It's the spread between the best and the worst.
Right.
And we're not comparing some massive California dairy to a small Vermont farm. We're comparing top managers to average managers in the same New York market. Same blend prices, same taxes, same weather.
And the difference is stark. When you look at operating costs per hundredweight, the gap it's staggering. The top 25% of New York farms, the farms doing this right, are running at $15.79 per hundredweight.
Okay, $15.79.
Now, look at the bottom 25%. They're hitting $22.32.
Wait, I have to interrupt you there because that number, $6.53, that is the definition of operational leakage.
It is.
I mean, most of us are agonizing over 4 or 5 cents on a futures contract, maybe hoping to gain 10 cents on the blend price. And you're telling me that the guy across the road is effectively giving up $6.50 on every hundredweight he ships.
That's what the data says.
That's just pure chronic management inefficiency compounded over 365 days.
That is the management inefficiency.
Yeah.
And let's translate that 653 gap into real dollars, because this is where the panic should actually set in.
Okay.
We use the example of a mid-sized operation. A 500-cow dairy producing 25,000 pounds of milk annually per cow.
So a 12.5 million pound farm.
Yeah.
Standard operation.
Exactly. That $6.53 efficiency gap, it translates to a potential loss of $816,250 in margin annually.
$800,000.
That is money that farm should be generating if they were operating with the efficiency of their neighbors. It's not just a statistic. It's almost $1 million in wealth hemorrhaging out of the operation every single year.
Almost $1 million. And when you realize that the entire debate about a $600,000 robot, it shifts completely.
It has to.
If I'm losing $800,000 because my cost of production is too high, buying a machine that costs another $100,000 in debt service every year isn't solving the problem. It's accelerating the timeline to insolvency.
You're just trading a slow death by 1,000 cuts for a quick death by massive debt.
Exactly.
And what's so fascinating is the source material reveals what we're calling the machinery paradox. You'd assume the farm's struggling with high costs or running old, broken equipment, right? Cutting corner.
Yeah, that's what you'd think.
Wrong.
Huh.
The Cornell data shows that the cost gap is not being bridged by new equipment. In fact, the lower performing herds often have a higher machinery and equipment investment per cow.
Oh, of course they do.
It's $2,941 per cow versus $2,324 for the top performers.
That is the most farmer thing I've ever heard. When we're stressed, we default to spending money on steel. We think a new mixer wagon will fix our feeding consistency, or a new tractor will fix a time crunch.
Or a robot will fix a labor problem.
Right. But the data shows the lower performing managers are trying to buy their way out of management deficits. And it's just a failed strategy that compounds their losses.
Absolutely. From a financial perspective, what they're doing is worsening their financial efficiency, specifically their asset turnover ratio. Let's break that down.
Okay.
The ATR. It just measures how efficiently you use your assets to generate revenue.
Yep.
Simple calculation. Revenue divided by total assets.
So the top managers have a high revenue number generated from fewer assets. They're using their older, fully depreciated tractor 8 hours a day, keeping that machinery cost per cow low.
But the low performers, they go buy the $300,000 new tractor. They load up the debt side, which increases their total assets. The denominator of the equation, right?
Right, which makes the ratio worse.
And they increase debt service, depreciation. And if their underlying management inefficiency isn't fixed, the production, the revenue, doesn't increase to match. So they load up on debt, their ATR plummets, and the operation still hemorrhages cash.
It's financial malpractice. And it's why the high-cost farms just keep having high costs. They're treating the symptoms with expensive equipment instead of fixing the disease, which is their process.
And this isn't unique to the Northeast either. We see this pattern globally. It proves this is a systems issue, not a regional one. The sources cite Brazilian researchers. They studied, 378 farms adopting precision tech. They found 58% didn't see the promised ROI.
58%. So what did they miss? That's the critical piece. They had the sensors, they had the fancy data feed, but they didn't have the routine. If you spend $30,000 on activity monitoring tags, that tag can tell you a cow is in heat. But if your labor crew isn't trained on a standard operating procedure to actually retrieve that cow, handle her gently, and get her bred within that optimal window, that tag is just an expensive piece of jewelry.
It's the utilization gap. We saw this exact failure mode documented in California and Georgia, too. Massive capital expenditures, hundreds of thousands on complex cooling systems and new facilities.
And they failed?
They ultimately failed because the basic, boring problem of inconsistent feeding schedules was never fixed. You can install the best cooling fans in the world, but if the cows are standing in the alley waiting for feed at 9 a.m. when the schedule says 6 a.m., You lose all the benefit.
Different climate, different facility, same managerial failure.
Exactly.
Technology is fertilizer for good management. But if your soil, your basic management protocols is barren, all you're doing is fertilizing weeds. We need to focus on fixing that $800,000 management gap first. And that begins in the parlor.
So how do we start chipping away at that massive efficiency gap without signing a loan? We start with the single most important non-negotiable process on a dairy farm: the milking parlor routine. We're introducing what we're calling the 90-second rule. And this is where we need to stop treating parlor prep like a suggestion and start treating it like the fixed biological equation it is.
I appreciate that you call it the bovine neuroendocrine reflex arc. I mean, it sounds academic, but in plain English, it just means the cow's body has a clock that we cannot rush.
You can't.
We've all been there, right? Second cutting, feeling rushed. But we forget that the cow doesn't care about our deadlines. Her system is governed by a hormone release, a timer.
And that hormone is oxytocin. The moment you first touch that udder, a clock starts. That stimulation signals the pituitary gland to release oxytocin into the bloodstream. Critically, it takes time, about a minute, minute and a half, for that hormone to travel and bind to the cells surrounding the alveoli.
Right, and those cells contract, they squeeze the milk down into the cisterns where the machine can actually harvest it efficiently.
But if you attach before that contraction happens, you're just trying to vacuum milk out of an almost empty cistern. And that causes damage.
So let's detail this oxytocin timeline, because this is the $126,000 protocol right here. Every single milker needs to memorize these 4 steps.
Okay, at 0 seconds, you have the first touch. That's the application of the pre-dip. The nerve impulse is generated immediately.
Then you need the mandatory 30 seconds of contact time for that pre-dip to achieve a full bacteria kill. If you cut this short to 15 seconds, you are failing your mastitis prevention program before you even start milking.
Now, the critical manual step: you must strip 2 to 3 streams per teat. This is not optional. This aggressive forest stripping does 2 things. 1, it flushes out the high bacteria for milk. And 2, it provides the strongest tactile signal to the cow's brain to maximize that oxytocin release. This is hormone control, pure and simple.
And here's the magic window: 60 to 90 seconds from first touch. This is when the oxytocin is circulated, it's bound to the cells, and that intramammary pressure peaks. That's when you attach the unit. And now be you.
Not before.
If you hit 45 seconds, you're too early. If you hit 120 seconds, the oxytocin pulse is already starting to drop off. It's a tight window, but it's dictated by biology, not by convenience.
And this brings us back to that 250-cow Fond du Lac farm cited in the research. They were consistently rushing prep in 45 seconds. They were trying to push throughput.
Right, they were trying to get 100 cows through the parlor in an hour instead of the 85 they should have been doing. So they were attaching the unit before the alveolar milk had fully let down.
And the result is what researchers call bimodal milking. You get this quick rush of the easy cistern milk. The machine recognizes flow. Everyone's happy. But then the flow drops dramatically, sometimes to near 0.
Because the hormonal letdown hasn't finished.
Exactly. Only then does the second big wave of milk start to flow once the oxytocin finally kicks in.
From a practical farming standpoint, bimodal flow is just an operational disaster. It triples the amount of time the machine is running at low flow, or worse, vacuuming an empty teat. It's slow, and it hurts the cow.
It does.
When that flow drops to near 0, the machine is still applying vacuum. That mechanical stress causes tissue congestion and hyperkeratosis.
Hyperkeratosis. It's essential for the listener to understand this. That's the visible roughness, the thickened, callous surface on the teat end. The machine is literally beating up the teat tissue, causing it to harden defensively.
And why is that bad? A hyperkeratotic teat end is rough and pitted. It provides an ideal harbor for bacteria to live and multiply. You're just significantly increasing your risk of clinical and subclinical mastitis.
So you're hurting the cow, increasing your vet bills, increasing culling rates, and at the same time, you're losing money on yield and quality.
It's a triple negative, a complete disaster.
And that leads to the other major consequence, the stress block. If the cow is stressed or uncomfortable because you're rushing her, her body releases adrenaline, and adrenaline is a powerful antagonist to oxytocin.
It actually blocks the letdown reflex from working.
It does. This stress block causes that 4 to 6% of milk to remain trapped in the udder. That milk was synthesized, the cow spent energy producing it, and you just left it there.
Wait, I want to pause here and address the operational reality. You can talk about the neuroendocrine reflex all day, but how do we get a milker at 4 a.m. on the third shift to consistently wait those 90 seconds? That is the management challenge.
That's the implementation resistance. But top managers don't leave this to chance. They invest in simple tools. We've seen parlors install dedicated digital timers that reset at the moment of first pre-dip, giving a visual cue.
Right.
Others use colored tags that change hands only when the prep is complete. You have to measure and reinforce the procedure. If you're measuring parlor performance by cows per hour instead of milk quality and completion time, you're incentivizing failure.
So the solution isn't a robot to replace the milker. It's a stopwatch and a checklist to empower the milker.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the money shot calculation. There are $126,198 annual gain that comes from fixing this one protocol.
Okay, let's walk through the math.
We're looking at a 500 cow herd, averaging 75 pounds of milk per day. We are using a conservative 5% bump in yield, which is the midpoint of that 4 to 6% range.
A 5% bump on 75 pounds is 3.75 extra pounds per cow per day.
Multiply that by 500 cows, and you're suddenly getting 1,875 extra pounds of milk per day.
Over 365 days, that's what? Over 680,000 extra pounds of milk annually.
Yep. 684,375 pounds.
Yeah.
Now, take the current blend price, roughly $18.44 per hundredweight. You do the math, and you land right at $126,198 in new revenue.
And here's the key point that has to be underscored. That 126 grand is virtually pure profit.
Pure profit. Why?
Because the feed that produced that milk, the housing, the overhead, the heifer costs, they have all already been paid for. You are simply harvesting milk that was previously inaccessible due to poor timing.
No capital expenditure, just discipline. You invest $20,000 in training, and you capture over $126,000 in profit.
And we're still only talking volume. Proper timing also consistently lifts butterfat percentages because you're fully harvesting the high-fat strippings. It lowers your SCC, which gets you those quality bonuses.
Bonuses that too many farms are leaving on the table right now.
And don't forget the nuance. A Jersey might let down at 45 seconds. A Holstein needs 60 to 90. Management means knowing your breed and customizing that clock. All right, so we've established that mastering the 90-second window gets us $126,000 in pure profit for really a minimal investment. Now we have to address the elephant in the barn, the all-in automation approach. This is where we need to apply extreme skepticism and measure if the solution costs more than the problem it claims to fix.
This is where the bovine gets contrarian. We are challenging the core narrative that robots automatically equal financial salvation. Let's look at the cold, hard numbers for the all-in budget.
The total investment is terrifying. You start with the robotic milking system itself. We're talking 2 or 3 units for a 500 cow herd. That's easily $450,000 to $500,000.
Then you add the barn retrofits, concrete, electrical, specialized gating, maybe another 75 grand.
Automated feeding systems, that's another 52,000, plus integrated health monitoring, software licenses, another 38. So total investment is easily $660,000 or more.
And what does that mean annually? You finance that 660 over a standard 7-year term at current interest rates. That translates to an annual debt service of around $100,000.
$100,000. That has to be paid back before you see a single dollar of profit.
And what are you banking on to pay that debt service?
Dealer promises. They often promise a 7% production gain because cows are milked more frequently. But if you look at the university studies, the unbiased research
from Cornell, Minnesota,
2 to 3% production gain is what's realistic for an average herd. And that's a massive difference when you're relying on that income to service a 6-figure debt.
And we haven't even talked about the operational costs that chew up the margins. Robots are maintenance intensive.
That's the reality the shiny brochures hide, right? Robots have high consumables costs. Specialized chemicals, liners, parts. You're looking at $5,000 to $10,000 annually just for that.
Then you have the service contract.
You cannot run a complex $250,000 machine without a rigorous service contract. That can easily be another $15,000 to $20,000 a year.
And the cost of downtime is exponential. If a sensor breaks on a parlor, you can manually milk. If a critical component breaks on a robot, you could lose 12 hours of production from 60 cows.
That downtime cost repair fees plus lost milk can wipe out weeks of margin in a single afternoon.
And then there's the labor myth. Dr. Marcia Andre's findings at the University of Minnesota are critical here. Robots don't eliminate labor.
No, they just fundamentally change it. They replace $15 an hour physical labor with $30 an hour technical oversight.
I love her quote, which just summarizes it perfectly. Farmers think they're buying free time. They're really just buying different obligations.
That's it. They trade 3 milkers for 1 highly paid technician and a lot of screen time.
And that's the wage gap, and what we call the unicorn problem. You're not replacing a $15 milker with 0 payroll cost. You're replacing them with a highly skilled $25 to $30 an hour technician.
And where are these people? Who wants to live out in rural Idaho or Vermont and answer a 2 a.m. alarm call from a 6-figure machine? The scarcity of that labor is a massive hidden cost.
So the financial reality, when you track it through extension programs, it's pretty grim. Typical annual benefits from robots factoring in realistic production gains and optimistic labor shifts are around $65,000 a year.
Wait, hold on. You're saying the total financial gain is $65,000, but the fixed annual debt service is $100,000 plus another $20,000 in service and consumables.
Get the numbers show.
So that's a guaranteed loss.
Exactly. The all-in approach often yields a net loss of $35,000 to $40,000 annually because the costs just overwhelm the gains. The overall ROI on that massive investment lands at about 9.8%.
Which is far below the 15% minimum required for financial health.
Far below. If your operating cost structure is already weak, if you're one of those $22 farms, the robot doesn't fix it. It just puts you in debt faster.
It's the ultimate contrarian take, but it's supported by the financial data. For many mid-sized farms, the robot is a financial accelerator leading toward insolvency, not profitability. We need to invest in things that deliver triple-digit returns, not 9% returns.
So the $660,000 robot often yields a negative net result. Let's pivot to the alternative, the strategic route. This approach relies on targeted, low-capital investments that multiply human management skills instead of trying to replace them wholesale.
Right, we're talking surgical strikes on quantified bottlenecks. We identify the $126,000 problem, the $75,000 problem, and we buy the specific tool to fix that problem.
Not a massive solution that fixes nothing well.
Exactly. And the total investment for this strategic approach is a fraction of the automation path. We're looking at a total investment of around $74,000 for the core systems.
Okay, let's break down the components of that $74,000 strategic stack, starting with the biggest ROI driver besides the parlor routine: reproduction.
Component 1, precision reproduction. If your herd's preg rate is poor, every day a cow is open beyond that optimal window is lost profit. You're just burning money on feed and replacement heifers.
The investment here is heat detection, ear tags, or collars. About $24,000 for the whole herd. It's a measurable, targeted fix for a known problem.
The impact is profound. You increase your pregnancy rate from the low to mid-40s to the low 60s. University studies show improving repro is worth $100 to $150 per cow per year.
In reduced days open, tighter calving intervals.
For 500 cows, that's an annual gain of $50,000 to $75,000. The payback period on that $24,000 investment is less than 6 months. That's a 300% plus ROI.
You don't get that return anywhere else in dairy.
And that money then pays for the rest of your tech stack.
Okay, next. Component 2, quality and health control.
This is smart parlor upgrading, not automation. Inline milk testing, costing maybe $15,000. This doesn't milk the cow for you.
No.
But it makes your milker smarter. It turns the parlor into a data collection point. It measures conductivity, pH, and detects subclinical mastitis days before you'd ever see a clot.
And early intervention saves you, about $400 per case of mastitis? More importantly, this real-time monitoring ensures your bulk tank stays below that premium threshold, say 150,000 SCC consistently.
That quality bonus, maybe 50 cents to $1 a hundredweight, that's pure margin capture.
Then there's the hidden but absolutely vital investment. Component 3, protocol training. We just spent all that time detailing the $126,000 lost in the parlor. You fix that with management and training.
That's right.
We're talking an investment of maybe $20,000 for formal, recurring, maybe even bilingual training, consultant fees, and incentive programs to standardize that 90-second routine.
Penn State research notes that training is usually a game of telephone where critical steps get lost over time. This investment fixes that $126,000 problem year-round.
And delivers 4 to 5% more milk.
This is the foundation. If you spend 20 grand on training to unlock 126,000 in milk, that's a 1,500% first-year ROI. It's a non-negotiable step that has to come first.
Finally, for smaller herds, component 4, value capture. This is the market play, trading volume for value density.
A small pasteurizer may be $15,000 plus bottling equipment. This enables direct sales, agritourism, a small creamery. You're leveraging the high-margin local market.
And the numbers here are compelling because the margin is just so much higher. Commodity milk sells for, 18 cents a pound? Direct market milk can sell for $1, $2 a pound?
So diverting just 15% of your production to direct sales can generate $70,000 to $85,000 in new revenue. You're not trying to compete with the big guys. You're carving out a premium niche.
Okay, so let's look at the ultimate comparison, side by side. The ROI table tells the entire story.
The all-in automation approach. Over $660,000 in investment, and it yields a net annual loss of $35,000. The ROI is under 10%.
But the strategic technology route requires a total investment of just $74,000.
And the net annual result.
Conservatively, $150,000 to $200,000 in the black. That's a 300% plus ROI.
So you don't need a robot to survive. You need discipline and targeted capital that addresses your actual financial weak points.
Okay, this is where every farmer who's been listening needs to pause and grab a pen. We've defined the problem, we've shown the financial solutions, but before you write that check for any piece of technology, big or small, you have to ask the right questions.
These are the 5 non-negotiable questions. They're like a filtration system for bad capital decisions.
First, have we actually put a dollar figure on what our problems are costing us right now? You have to quantify the leakage. If your goal is to reduce mastitis, what's the exact cost per case? If you can't quantify the loss, you can't justify the expense.
Second, are we in the top 25% for how well we're doing what we're already doing? If the answer is no, you are just buying technology to scale mediocrity. Fix the basics first.
Third, is this technology going to help us stand out in the market or just make us slightly better at commodity production? Is it achieving true differentiation or just parity? If you're just becoming slightly more average, it's probably not worth the debt.
Fourth, and this is a big one, do we have people who can actually run this stuff, or are we hoping to find unicorns? Be brutally realistic about your labor pool. A robot needs a technician. If the nearest one is 4 hours away, that repair is going to cost you thousands.
And finally, can we hit 15% returns and still have money in the bank for when things go sideways? If the ROI is razor thin, like that 9.8% we saw, you are setting yourself up for financial fragility when the next market downturn hits.
Now let's address that fear statistic again. 39% of farms gone in 5 years. That stat drives panic. But we need to highlight the minority, the 10% of smaller farms that are still making money. Small doesn't mean dead, it just means you have to be different and disciplined.
They succeed through 3 main strategies. Number 1, elite execution. This is discipline turned into profit. We know of operations in Skagit County, Washington, running under 200 cows at under $18 a hundredweight.
They were running $2 a hundredweight better than the average top 25% farm by hyper-optimizing everything: labor, feed, energy.
Number 2, finding a niche. Specialty premiums are life support. Cornell and UVM data show organic farms pulling $250 to $300 extra per cow, or just being geographically unique can get you a premium. You monetize scarcity.
And number 3, which we've detailed, smart technology. Targeted fixes. 25 grand for tags to fix your repro disaster, not 660,000 on a machine hoping to fix everything.
And crucially, this high discipline approach is now becoming a new documented revenue stream. We're talking about monetizing management. Sustainability premiums are starting to reward good execution and data logging, not just owning specific tech.
We're seeing specific opportunities emerge. The USDA's Climate Smart Commodities grants, they're creating pilot payments of $20 to $50 per cow for verified carbon reductions. That's cash flow based on how well you manage, not what you own.
And processor contracts are following suit. Danone, Nestle. Their net zero programs offer premiums, maybe 50 cents to $1 a hundredweight, for verified management practices. This requires good data logging. It rewards the diligent farmer who can prove their efficiency.
So the future of dairy isn't high-tech. It's high discipline. Technology is a multiplier of management capability, not a substitute. Your cows don't care about the brand name on the milking unit. They care about hitting that 60 to 90 seconds perfectly. They care about eating at the same time every day.
If you are one of the 39% of farms that went under, chances are you were trying to buy your way out of a management problem. The path forward is doing the basics really, really well, consistently. That's where the profit is. Right. So a farmer just finished milking and is driving to the feed store. The radio is loud. What are the 3 non-negotiable, financially critical things they need to remember from today's deep dive?
They need to remember the 3 phases of the roadmap that actually generates equity, not debt. And they must follow this chronology.
Takeaway 1, immediate action. This week, stop guessing, start measuring.
The action. Invest the time or spend the $5,000 to $8,000 on an independent, brutal assessment of your true cost of production. Use an accounting service, a consultant, someone who knows this stuff.
And the goal. Quantify your operational problems in hard dollars. Are you closer to $15.79 or $22.32 per hundredweight? Until you know the dollar cost of that leakage, you cannot fix it. This is phase 1.
Takeaway 2. Medium-term strategy. 3 to 6 months out. Invest in the basics, not the machines.
The action. Prioritize protocol training. Implement the formal, recurring training, that $15,000 to $25,000 investment, to ensure every milker, every day, hits that golden window for oxytocin letdown.
The goal. Capture that $126,000 in hidden milk revenue. This investment has an expected 1,500% first-year ROI. It's the best money you can spend. This is phase 2. It is mandatory.
And takeaway 3, long-term positioning. 1 to 2 years from now. Only by technology to multiply skill.
The action is to adopt that strategic technology route, the $74,000 stack, but only after phase 2 is rock solid. Invest in tech that solves a quantifiable $50,000 plus bottleneck, like repro or quality.
And the goal is simple. Achieve that 300% plus ROI by addressing specific, quantified bottlenecks after your protocols are mastered. Never, ever buy a robot hoping it will fix a management problem you haven't even measured yet.
This has been another Bullvine podcast from the Bullvine Podcast. For more straight-talking industry analysis, head to www.thebullvine.com.
Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. We're out with new episodes every day, and next time's deep dive will be focused on the changing landscape of labor regulation and how it impacts the actual cost of your $15 an hour versus $30 an hour labor decision. You won't want to miss it.